While every car brand sells power, Rolls-Royce sells silence. Before it ruled the road, it conquered the sky, powering warplanes in World War I. And even before that, it all began with an unlikely handshake between two opposites, a charismatic aristocrat and a bankrupt self-taught engineer. You won't see Rolls-Royce flashing neon at car expos. Instead, they are parked beside fighter jets and billion-dollar aircrafts. Because Rolls-Royce doesn't sell speed, it sells certainty, the kind trusted by kings, presidents, and pilots flying at 35,000 feet. And their dominance in the skies didn't begin in modern hangars. This is the insane true story of how Rolls-Royce became the most exclusive brand on Earth by refusing to be like anyone else. In the industrial heart of Britain in 1904, a fateful meeting took place at the Midland Hotel in Manchester that would forever change the automotive world. On one side of the table sat Charles Rolls, a man whose polished appearance reflected his aristocratic upbringing, Cambridge-educated, well-connected, and with a passion for selling the finest European automobiles to Britain's elite. Opposite him sat Henry Royce, a man of hardened hands, self-made engineer whose meticulous attention to detail spoke of a life dedicated to mechanical perfection. Their backgrounds represented opposite ends of British society. Rolls moved through elite social circles with ease, captivating audiences with tales of his ballooning adventures and motor racing, while Royce, born into poverty, had left school at age 9 and begun work at 14 as a telegraph boy. He spent his nights studying engineering from borrowed textbooks, eventually founding an electrical and mechanical firm of his own. By 1904, he had built his first car, not out of ambition, but frustration. It was Henry Edmonds, a mutual friend and early automobile enthusiast, who connected the two. Upon witnessing Royce's home-built car glide along the road with uncanny smoothness and silent operation, he arranged an introduction. When Rolls saw the car for himself, he was stunned, not by the power, but by the discipline behind it. In an era plagued by mechanical inconsistency, Royce's machine offered something rare: predictability. What unfolded wasn't just a business agreement. It was an alignment of purpose. Like opposing gears locking into place, they formed a perfect mechanical symmetry. Royce would build, Rolls would sell. Royce brought obsession, Rolls brought access. Together, they had one goal: build a car so perfect it wouldn't need to be introduced. It would be recognized. Their contrasting personalities proved remarkably compatible. Royce inspected components with white gloves, rejecting parts that didn't meet his standards. He preferred solitude, finding comfort among his drawings and prototypes. Rolls moved effortlessly through high society, using his charisma to convince influential buyers to trust this new endeavor. While rival automakers, established by German and French manufacturers, chased scale and affordability, Rolls and Royce charted the opposite course. Mass production meant compromise. They wanted control. Each car was handcrafted, tested exhaustively, adjusted until the balance was flawless. This wasn't manufacturing, it was ritual. And as word spread, so did the legend. In salons, royal courts, and racing circles, whispers of a new British car built not for the masses, but for the selective, began to circulate. This wasn't just the start of a company. While others chased volume, Rolls-Royce chased legacy. But even perfection needs a voice. And Rolls-Royce was about to find one. They had the engine, they had the name, but Rolls-Royce didn't truly become Rolls-Royce until Claude Johnson stepped in, a man so instrumental to the company's destiny. He earned a title no engineer could claim, the hyphen in Rolls-Royce. He wasn't an engineer, he didn't build cars, but what he built was belief. When Johnson joined the company in 1905, he brought something the brand had yet to develop: presence. As a former secretary of the Automobile Club of Great Britain, he understood the rituals of the elite better than anyone. He saw Rolls and Royce not just as men, but as ingredients, and he would become the hyphen that fused them together. What the company needed wasn't just craftsmanship, it needed a story, a symbol, a moment that would grab the attention of the press, society, and the aristocracy it hoped to court. He found it in the 13th car off the line, It was sleek, pale silver, whisper quiet. A machine that didn't just move, it glided. Johnson named it the Silver Ghost, explaining, silver for its purity and ghost for its silent, effortless movement. British automobiles still face skepticism among Europe's elite, who questioned whether they could match established continental manufacturers. Johnson understood that to transform public perception, he needed to create a moment that would captivate the imagination of potential buyers and the press alike. Then, in June 1907, he did what modern marketers would call a viral campaign, decades before such a thing existed, a 774-mile reliability trial, showcasing the Silver Ghost's unprecedented dependability. When he reached the infamous Rest and Be Thankful hill, he didn't just climb it. He reversed the car up the final hairpin turn twice for the photographers. The Silver Ghost completed the trial flawlessly, earning the gold medal for excellence in hill climbing, reliability, and fuel consumption. Newspapers called it miraculous. Society took notice. Johnson made a bold, audacious claim, the best car in the world. And no one dared to argue. Through Johnson's vision, Rolls-Royce transformed from a small British manufacturer into the very definition of automotive excellence. He understood that true luxury was about creating an experience of perfection so complete that customers would accept nothing less. But just as Rolls-Royce was stepping into the spotlight, tragedy arrived from the sky. In July 1910, Charles Rolls, co-founder, frontman, and voice of the company, was killed in an airshow accident. His aircraft disintegrated mid-flight. He was just 32. He became Britain's first aviation fatality, and overnight, Rolls-Royce lost its face. The question lingered: could a company built on two names survive with only one? For many companies, this would have ended everything. But for Rolls-Royce, it became a turning point. Henry Royce, battling declining health, responded not with speeches, but with silence, and 16-hour days in the workshop. Where others saw finished parts, he saw flaws. Where others saw good enough, he saw unfinished. Royce began redesigning components with obsessive devotion. He wasn't just building cars anymore, he was building a legacy. Meanwhile, Claude Johnson did what Rolls could no longer do. He elevated the brand beyond the man. He forged royal alliances, secured the royal warrant from King Edward VII, and placed Rolls-Royce, not in dealerships, but in palaces. By 1911, Johnson had completed the brand's transformation, introducing the Spirit of Ecstasy, the bonnet mascot forever leaning into the wind. She isn't just a hood ornament. She's a symbol of grace, endurance, and quiet power. The Flying Lady reminds the world that true luxury doesn't arrive with noise. It arrives with presence. By the time the Spirit of Ecstasy was introduced in 1911, Rolls-Royce wasn't just a motor car. It was a status symbol for the world's elite. Heads of state, aristocrats, and industrial magnates across Europe had begun to replace horse-drawn carriages with silver ghosts. The Shah of Persia, King George V, and even the Russian imperial court commissioned custom-built models. These weren't vehicles. They were moving palaces, tailored to the tastes of the powerful. In royal courts and executive suites, owning a Rolls-Royce represented more than wealth. It signaled that you were meant to be remembered. Then came World War I. The world changed almost overnight. Carriages turned to convoys, and silk-lined roads gave way to scorched skies. Rolls-Royce, once known for motor cars gliding through royal estates, was now engineering engines for something far greater: survival. The Rolls-Royce Eagle powered the Vickers VME, the aircraft that would complete the first non-stop transatlantic flight. The company's engines weren't just elegant anymore, they were reliable under fire. But as the dust of war settled and the world looked to rebuild, something stirred once more inside the company's DNA. The road, it seemed, was no longer enough, because Rolls-Royce wasn't just destined to move people on the ground, it was about to lift them into the sky. By the end of World War I, Rolls-Royce had already proven its engines could do more than power cars. They could protect nations. But war doesn't just change borders, it changes industries. And in the aftermath, the world didn't look back. It looked up. The internal combustion engine, once the crown jewel of the automobile age, was no longer the final word. The future now roared in jet streams, echoed in altitude, and whispered across the wings of possibility. Rolls-Royce saw it coming and stepped forward. In 1937, they began working with a young Royal Air Force officer named Frank Whittle, whose radical idea, the gas turbine engine, would become the foundation of modern jet propulsion. Where others hesitated, Rolls-Royce committed. Their first jet engine, the Welland, would power Britain's first operational jet fighter, the Gloucester Meteor. The plane didn't just fly, it rewrote speed. And with it, Rolls-Royce entered a new era. From building smooth, whisper-quiet engines for cars, Rolls-Royce was now developing engines that could break the sound barrier. They weren't just adapting to the jet age. They were building the engines that defined it. They powered the most well-known aircrafts in history before becoming the engine partner of choice for giants like Boeing, Airbus, and Gulfstream. Today, their Trent engine series, used on aircraft like the Airbus A350 and Boeing 787 Dreamliner, carries millions of passengers across continents, with each turbine blade engineered to microscopic precision. If you've ever flown on a commercial jet, there's a good chance you've already experienced a Rolls-Royce engine. You just didn't know it. Not on the road, but 35,000 feet in the air. But while the name Rolls-Royce is often associated with aircraft cabins and private jets, its reach goes far deeper and much further. Their engineering powers fighter jets, Royal Navy submarines, and even nuclear propulsion systems. In recent years, Rolls-Royce has collaborated with NASA to develop high-efficiency propulsion technologies for future aircraft and potential lunar surface power systems, extending their legacy beyond Earth's atmosphere. From battlefield skies to deep space modules, Rolls-Royce remains one of the few names trusted where failure is not an option. And yet, for all its expansion into the skies, the seas, and even space, the soul of the company still sits beneath the bonnet of every car that bears its name. Because no matter how far Rolls-Royce has traveled, above clouds or below oceans, its true power lies in something much simpler. If there's one lesson buried beneath the chrome and silence of a Rolls-Royce, it's this: greatness doesn't care where you begin. Henry Royce started with nothing, no wealth, no background, just grit, discipline, and an obsession with doing things the right way, even when no one was watching. He didn't follow a path. He engineered one, and as he once said, strive for perfection. Take the best that exists and make it better. If it doesn't exist, create it. That philosophy didn't just build a car, it built a legacy. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to Noble Narratives, where luxury meets a legacy, and every name has a deeper story than you've been told. And if you like more stories like this, dive into the Best of Noble Narratives playlist, your front row seat to the untold stories, rivalries, controversies, and reinventions behind the world's most iconic brands. I'll see you all there in a second. Cheers!